Hare Krishna. The soul is Satchitananda, right? It's full of knowledge, it's eternal, and it's full of bliss. And it has form also, of course. So, this is the goal of the Vedic education, to bring forth this natural knowledge of the soul, which we possess naturally. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada sometimes defines education as the process of purification. When we purify our consciousness, which is the energy of the soul, then the natural glory of the soul shines forth, and it's obvious. So we are born in ignorance. Therefore, there is this mantra: Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. So we are born in ignorance, practically like animal. Therefore, there's another mantra, Tusi Prabhu knows. Everybody is born Shudra. Everybody is born Shudra. Well, not exactly animal, but okay. We are born in ignorance, and our default settings are for animalistic activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And in order to be elevated to higher level of existence, we need training. In order to become a human being, not just because we have a human form, but to be a real human beings, we need training and education. Otherwise, we will remain animals. When you go out on the street and we see so many humans, we should know, walking around, we should know that most of them are actually not up to the human standard of life. They are subhumans by consciousness. Most of them is generous, right, by far, because they didn't go through this education, purification. Humans are supposed to have higher consciousness than animals. For example, animals, when they see a weaker animal, what they do? They basically take advantage. They devour this animal. So what happens when you get out of the subway, let's say in New York, and you don't know where to go and you're confused? Most probably there will be people who will be noticing that you're confused, and they will try to take advantage of you. Is it? Of course, there will be people who will be helping you also. So the human level of consciousness is when you see somebody who is in weak position, you try to help this person. An animal is just the opposite. That's just one example. So human life means, human form of life means a very heavy responsibility, as we all have heard by now. Because there are two things. It is very rare, first of all. Again, when we go on the street and we see many humans, and we are maybe wondering, how is this so rare that there are how many people living here in this city? Millions of people. So, but our perspective is very very limited, because there are so many other living entities we don't perceive with our senses. And the humans, we, in this human form of life, we are actually in minority. So it is a rare opportunity to be born as human being. Okay, especially when Lord Chaitanya and Krishna are descending in this particular time. But anyway, even without this, it is very rare. So it's a very rare opportunity, and has long all the choices we make in this human form of life have long consequences. If we act in a pious way in this relatively short human life, then the consequences will be such that we will enjoy for many, many lifetimes in very nice places, much better than New York. And if we misuse this human form and we perform impious, sinful activities, then we will have to go to hell, also for a long time. And if we serve Krishna and develop pure love for Krishna, then we will attain the spiritual world. And this is forever, it's not for a long time. So the consequences are very, very serious, and it is very rare of this opportunity. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Durlabam manavam manusham janma tatapi adruvam artadam. Adruvam means adruvam means it is temporary human form of life. I mean, this body is obviously ephemeral, but it gives artadam. Artha means something very valuable. It gives the greatest opportunity to attain the love of Godhead. When we speak about education, in the Vedic, at least, context. Yeah.
Do we ask questions later? Or
yeah, sure. Please. That's principle of Vedic education also. When somebody has a question, he has to ask, or she has to ask the question right now, because otherwise, later, 5 minutes later, maybe he will lose interest in this question. So yes, please.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So the question is it true? Is it true that we all go to hell, but it depends on what you did in your life that determines the length of stay? And I'm referring to the Mahabharata, where
Yudhishthira went to hell.
Yes, all of them. Kunti, not Kunti, Draupadi, and they all went, and he couldn't understand why. So that caught my attention, and I just wanted to know.
No, the devotees of Krishna in Hare Krishna, in 6th canto, this famous conversation, Yamaraj with the Yamadutas. Yamaraj forbids his servants to even to come close to the devotees of Krishna. So this Mahabharata story is special arrangement because these are special devotees. These are not ordinary people. And Krishna has some lesson to teach all of us by using these very close and dear devotees to him. So normally the people, everybody sees Yamaraj, but depending on whether he's pious or impious, Yamaraj has a different form. Yamaraj is a beautiful demigod who awards lots of heavenly enjoyment to the pious people. And if the person is sinful, then Yamaraj he takes different shape, and he looks fearsome. And also the journey to this abode of Pitriloka of Yamaraj is different, looks different for different people. But the devotees don't go there. For the devotees there is different arrangement. Krishna made special arrangement for them, so we should not worry about it. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna. So education actually is connected with the dharma of the soul. This is very important connection. The purpose of the human form, which is to realize God and to go back home, back to Godhead. It is not just like choosing between whimsically or because of the mood, between different types of education, like I want to get education in fine arts or in martial arts or in science or history, philosophy. These things are very superficial, superfluous. They change from life to life. Even in one lifetime, people develop different interests. First they want to study this, they want to study something else, or they give up these studies. Here we are talking about the very core of the soul's inherent nature, which is something that doesn't change. And therefore, Vedic education means it's always connected to Dharma. Human beings are supposed to inquire about God and to develop God consciousness. Therefore, Vedic education provides this opportunity. Of course, it provides also knowledge and skills required for maintenance to put food on the table, but it gives not only this, it gives much more. Just like if you are admitted in a medical school or in a law school, you are going to get law or medical education, right? So we admitted in a human form of life, and this, believe it or not, this admittance is very rigid, as we mentioned. It's very rare chance, and only very few make it, because it takes a long time to get into this. So you imagine you are in one of these very prestigious and expensive universities. Many of them are here in US, and normally people who are there, the students, they have bright future, materially speaking, right? They'll be climbing up very high in the social hierarchy. They'll get good salary, good money. And imagine some of them, maybe they will not apply in their studies. They'll misuse this opportunity. They'll go partying, or they'll abuse drugs or whatever. So they will miss this chance. It's a material example, but exactly this happens with most of the population of Kali Yuga. It happens right now in this human form of life. And what will happen if students don't study? They'll be kicked out of the university at one point. So if we don't develop, if we don't act as human beings in this human body, we'll lose this human form of life. And this is what Krishna refers in Bhagavad-Gita as the greatest fear in 2nd chapter. Mahashanu Mahab. No. Neha Vikramanashti Pratyavamanavid Svalpam Api Asid Dharma Satrat Mahato Bhayat. The greatest fear is to become animal. Because once you fall down from the human form of life, it takes a long time to get back to this. It takes millions of births. You have to take birth in every species of life. You have to become a dog, not only one time, but you have to go through all different types of dogs. I guess in India there is only one dog, so but in the West there's so many dogs. So we find this knowledge in the Vedas, and which is connected to our dharma, to our inherent nature. And if, in order to receive it, you must approach a guru. It doesn't happen just by reading books, even if these books are Vedas. Of course, we're not even qualified to read the Vedas. That's another thing. We have to know Sanskrit, etc. We have to be in Sattva Guna. Okay, of course, we mentioned that Vedic education deals also with material needs, gives material knowledge and skills, but these are secondary to the eternal spiritual truths. So if we know God, if we know Krishna, then Krishna is the complete whole, and then we know everything. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad-Gita, Sasarva vid bhajanti mam buddha bhava saman. 15th chapter, he says that Sasarva vid bhajanti mam buddha bhava saman vita. If somebody knows me, he knows everything. So this may sound a little fanatical, or I don't know how it sounds, like dogmatic. But think about it. If we know the origin of everything, Krishna, then we know all. We know. Maybe we will not know. We will not know the answers of all the questions that somebody can ask. Like Prabhupada was asked once, how many? Some journalist asked him how many windows there is in a certain building here in
Empire State.
And Prabhupada answered, how many drops of water there is in the mirage. This knowledge is not required. It's not practical. So, but if we know Krishna, we will know everything in the sense that we will know the proper hierarchy of things. We will know how the things are connected with Krishna, and what is the proper place of everything in this world. And even if we require some knowledge, material knowledge, Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita, he says that he will provide the intelligence. Of course, he means that the intelligence to know him, but he'll provide any type of intelligence for his devotees. Hare Krishna. Doesn't mean that this knowledge necessarily will just pop up in your mind without any endeavor. You might have to go through a normal process to study, but it will be facilitated by Krishna. So education is the light of knowledge. Like in English we say, somebody is trying to explain something to us, and we say often, I see what you mean. You don't see, literally, but we see in a sense that there is light coming from the Super Soul. Krishna explains in Bhagavad-Gita, Jnana Dipena Bhasvata. This is the torchlight of knowledge. And we see through this knowledge the reality that this other person is trying to present to us. And it comes from Krishna, ultimately. So education is this knowledge, this light, this enlightenment that will save us from suffering. It's very practical. We're suffering because we are identifying with matter. Matter is temporary. We are eternal. And this is a very awkward situation for the soul. So it will save us from this and will bring us to realization of our position of Satchitananda, eternal blissful servants of Radha and Krishna. Yes?
Prabhupada said that all we need to know is the Gita and the Bhagavatam. Do you agree that that's all man really needs, and it should be promoted to everyone on the planet? Because when you read or learn more, you hear of the different types of knowledge, because the Vedas were split, and the Bhagavatam is a combination of all that knowledge. So he says, those are the only two things we need. And if anybody is 100% in Krishna consciousness, they are the spiritual master. Do you agree?
Sure, whatever Prabhupada says, we agree. That's the meaning of being follower or disciple. If you don't agree with the founder Acharya, you have to leave his institution. You cannot disagree and stay at the same time in. So, of course, you may require to learn something additional to this. Okay. Although Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, so Gita also, it includes everything. But like as we mentioned, if you need to have some occupation, you might need to learn some technical knowledge. But this is, you will learn this in connection with Krishna. In the beginning we mentioned that education, what was that? Purport from 11th canto. Real education means to give up the false idea that anything is separate from the Lord, the source of all potencies. So this is the difference between being in Krishna consciousness and being in material consciousness. If we see, this is actually the definition of Krishna consciousness from 4th canto of Bhagavatam. There it is stated that, what was that? Krishna consciousness means to observe the universe in the same way as Krishna observes the universe. Krishna sees everything as his energy, so we have to see it in the same way. So when we learn these other things that we require to maintain our body, we'll learn them in connection, in their natural connection with Krishna, not separately from him. Okay? So we may think that I'm a human being and I will decide what I will do and what will be the outcome of my activities. Many people think like this. But the fact is that the standard for a human being is already established by higher authorities. And we can only try to adjust and conform to this standard. When we speak about authorities, many people in the modern contemporary world, they I feel threatened. Authority. So let's define. Authority means is somebody, a person, who has higher knowledge and higher consciousness, and he's trying to elevate us to the same standard, high standard of what's happening here. To the same standard, and benefit us. That's authority. And in order to do this, normally he will, or she, the mother is also authority. The first guru, our first guru is the mother. The father is the second guru. And then there are more gurus, more authorities coming. In order to do this, the authority will normally impose some rules, some discipline that we have to follow. But this is for our good, for our benefit. It's not meant to abuse us, to exploit us. That's the Vedic idea of authority. So back to the previous point. So the human form of life has certain standard. And this applies to all other positions in society. For example, now we are here in the position of teacher and students. So these positions, they have standards, proper standards to follow. Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Devotion the qualification of the guru, of the teacher. Vachu Vegam, Manasa Kroda Vegam, Jihva Veram, Udara Pasta Vegam, Etan Vegam Yovishaketa Dira, Sarvan Pritimam, Apimam, Sashishyat. Basically, that means the guru, the teacher, should control his senses. Then he is guru. And of course, she should know. He has realized knowledge about the soul, about Krishna, etc. And the students also, they have to have certain qualifications also. They have to, like Krishna expressed in Bhagavad-Gita, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, upadikshantite gyanam gyana tattva darshinaha. If you want to learn this knowledge, you have to approach a guru in a humble mood, with desire to render service, menial service to him, and you should ask intelligent questions. So if any of us fall short of this standard, then we'll be asked to leave this position of teacher or student. If the teacher misbehaves or the students misbehave, then they will be asked to leave. So the same happens if we don't get an education, training as human in the human form of life. We will be asked to leave. So what is this Vedic education? First of all, it's Vedic. Veda. Veda means knowledge. The Vedas are the original knowledge given by the Lord to Brahma in the very first day of Brahma, the very beginning of this universe. Of course, it has been existing forever, but we're speaking in the context of this universe. So the Vedas is the knowledge, spiritual, material, everything is spiritual for Krishna, given by the Lord. And this very important thing to understand about the Vedas. Amnaya praha, tattvam harimiha. This is self-evident knowledge. It doesn't require proof. Other proof than itself. It's a simple concept, but it's difficult to, I guess, for our false ego as Westerners to swallow. So whatever Veda says is true. We don't have the right to challenge the Vedic authority. Simple as it is. What do you think?
I feel like we should always question everything,
Yeah, that's what René Descartes did to the Westerners with his famous. Of course, he started before that, but he documented it. Have to doubt in everything.
Wow.
Okay. The Greeks also, the Ionians, they also like to speculate.
If you question, you can understand more.
Okay, very good point. But so there are different types of attitudes while you question. When people are pious, they will question the Vedic authority in order to understand it better. Okay, not to challenge it. It's a difference. Okay, so you mean this type of question. You explaining that 2 + 2 is 4. I don't understand why and how. So please explain. I want to know. And this is just doubt. But misgiving will be, I very well understand how 2 + 2 is 4, but I don't want it to be 4. So this is hard to deal with, misgivings. Doubts is easier. So the Vedas are they are called Apaurushaya, which means they are not human creation. They're coming from Krishna. They are the breathing of Krishna. It's the Vedas. And as we said, there is no need for our logical arguments to prove they cannot be proven by material logic. It's whether it makes sense to our material logic or not, they are true. This is basic understanding that we have to, in the very beginning of our Krishna consciousness, we have to accept this. Just like, we have different people which they believe in different things. Like if you talk to a Marxist, for example, Marx, the famous German philosopher, or Freudian, or any of these people who follow their guru, they will ascribe to certain axioms that they're not questioned. The problem with this is that these axioms are they're coming from imperfect human brain, intelligence, mind, and they are imperfect. Here we're talking about the perfect knowledge coming directly from God, from Krishna. So, Apaurushaya, perfect. God is perfect and He delivers perfect knowledge, and He knows how to communicate if He's God. He knows how to communicate this knowledge so that we will understand and apply. So, this is the knowledge we must acquire as human beings. And the Vedas have 3 main topics. So this is what consists the core, the essence of Vedic education. We have to realize 3 things. They are called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Have you heard these 3 terms? Sambandha means... No? Okay. Sambandha means the relationship between the soul, God, and material nature. Soul, God, and material nature. The Sanskrit terms are Chitta, Chit, Ishvara. You hear this if you read these books about Vedanta. Chit means the soul, Achit means the nature, and Ishvara is Krishna. What is the relationship between these things? What is our position? What is our situation? Who are we? How are we connected with everything that surrounds us? Sambandha. And then, next great treasure of the Vedic knowledge is called Prayojana. Prayojana means the ultimate goal. What is the... Prabhupada sometimes translates it as the ultimate necessity. It's not because you can have so many ideas about your goal in life, but it's not a matter of speculation. This is what you actually need. Like, you may speculate that you don't need to eat anymore, but in few hours you have to eat, otherwise you'll die. So prayojana means the goal of life, the highest possible achievement. This is the second. And the third one is called Abhideya, means the process by which you will attain this ultimate goal. Yes, Sambandha, the relationship between God, the soul, and the material world. Prayojana, the ultimate goal, and Abhideya, the way, the method to attain the goal. These are the three topics of the Vedas. Everything the Vedas speaks is connected to these three. This is how our acharyas present the Vedas. This is how Srila Prabhupada writes his purports.
In the material world, you mean material world including the cosmos? When you say material,
material nature, including
whole universe.
The universe, all different universes, in all the phases of this material nature, because it has different phases, like the unmanifest, the partially, subtly manifest, and then the fully manifest, Prakriti, Pradhan, Mahatattva, etc. So Krishna is the supreme origin of everything, Janmani Asyataha. And the soul, we are his servants, we are part and parcels of God, and we are meant to serve him, and we are meant to engage everything that surrounds us in Krishna's service, because this is anyway his energy. So this is Sambandha. What is the ultimate goal? To attain our original position as lovers of Krishna, pure Krishna Prema. And how to do this? Abhideya. How do we do this? By by devotional service. Yes. So Vedic education is practical. It must be applied in practice and must lead to results. It's not theoretical knowledge. In the Vedic context, theoretical knowledge is not very much appreciated. Oh, it's appreciated as a good beginning, jnana, but it must lead to vijnana, to realization. It must be applied in practical life. Yes.
So, you were saying that the Vedas are, you just have to accept them, but then ultimately that will also lead to realization. It's not like, it's not just blind acceptance.
No, it's not blind acceptance. It is,
I think that's like the question, Anthony's like, you don't want to blindly just accept something, you question it to be able to.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada explains, we should not accept anything blindly. We should question, we should ask questions, but these should be intelligent questions without challenging attitude. And then, by the mercy of the Guru, because this transmission of knowledge happens from the Guru to the disciple, when the Guru is pleased with the proper attitude of the disciple, then he will bless him with this knowledge. It won't happen, Srila Prabhupada explains, it will not happen like electrical charge, but it will happen through discussions, through explanation, through service, and it will happen in this way. And it will lead to realization, to the moment when the disciple will himself or herself will feel and see and experience this spiritual reality. Okay. So
what does it look like when we experience the spiritual reality?
Well, how do you feel when you're in a very ecstatic kirtan, for example, or surreal, or you take some super very tasty Mahaprasadam prepared with lots of love and devotion? So how do you feel? Or when you read Bhagavatam, your favorite pastimes of Krishna?
Surreal.
Okay, so this will become better and better until by, for example, by reading Bhagavatam, we will at one point enter inside these pastimes. And we will just wake up and we'll be there. Okay, so the knowledge must be applied. And how do we acquire this knowledge? So now we are talking about some practical things. We mentioned before in the beginning about these traditional schools called Gurukula. This is the home of the Guru. So the boys from 5-6 years old, they have to go to Gurukul and live with the Guru and study and serve there as servants. And in this way they will acquire knowledge. They will acquire good character, virtues. The parents cannot be teachers. Of course, they're teachers in the beginning, until 5-6 years old. But they don't have time to teach, right? Parents are busy. The teacher, that's what they do. They teach and they take care of the children. So here we speak about boys, because boys are trained better when you take them out of home. It's very important. Already Plato noticed that a long time ago. In the Republic, there is a description of how he sees this education, and he has the same idea. The children have to be taken and trained separate places. So the boys are trained better outside of the home, because in the home they tend to be unaware and unconscious about the environment. They tend to take it for granted that somebody should clean the home, somebody should wash their clothes. There should be money, cooking. Miraculously, all these things they have to appear, and in order to make them more conscious and aware of all different types of services and work that has to be done, they have to be taken out from home. Otherwise they'll be spoiled, especially by the mothers, because they love them so dearly. They like to serve. But it's not good for them to stay there. So therefore they have to be taken out. Yes?
Nowadays even it can be seen, sometimes there are boys who are like in their 40s,
Yeah.
even 45, 50.
Italians typically. The Italian lawyer who is in his 40s, but he still lives with his mom, because
Yes, and
she's the best
like
cook.
He's 15.
Yeah.
Cooking every day
Yeah.
for him and washing his clothes, cleaning his room.
Yes, and in our Gurukul in Mayapur, we're going to watch some slideshow from there. Boys, when they are already 11, 12 years old, they already take care of other boys, of the small boys. They're already their leaders. That means they're not only aware of their duties, but they're aware of a few other boys' duties, and they take care of them. And this is by the age of 12, 13. They're already leaders. In modern contemporary society, at least in my case, I became a little bit aware of what I'm talking now only when I went to the army. In my country there was compulsory army. You have to go at the age of 18. Then I became aware that I have to wash my clothes, I have to take care of so many things. Normally you don't. Okay, so the boys go to the Gurukul, and then there they live with the teacher. And in this way the teacher ensures that they don't only acquire theoretical knowledge, but also they apply this knowledge. When you go to the school or in the university, they give you knowledge, which typically, what kind of knowledge they give there? Yes, and what is the goal of this knowledge? Why people
get a piece of paper, get a degree.
Yeah, and with this piece of paper, what do? Prabhupada says you go like a dog around and you beg, please, I need a master. Please hire me.
Now I need a master.
Yeah. So in the Gurukula, okay, so we're talking that, okay, they give knowledge, but they don't, first of all, this knowledge, this information rather, given in the mundane educational institutions, it is just meant for people to get a job and to earn some money. But it's not meant for their spiritual upliftment, actually. And it's not meant to give them opportunity to develop good character either. In the Gurukul, the main thing is that the students, they develop good qualities, good character. And this is done by teaching and then by observing how they apply this knowledge. For example, in the beginning, in the morning class, the teacher will say, for example, that we have to develop service attitude. Service attitude means we have to be aware of the different services in the school, and we have to be willing to perform these services. And then when the lecture is over, he will observe the boys, how they apply this knowledge, and he will see, okay, they do well or they don't, so he will correct them, because he lives with them. That's the thing. In the modern contemporary schooling, teachers are just, of course, we cannot, there are so many nice things. I mean, I'm sure there are nice teachers, and we don't want to generalize too much, but normally what's happening, they just deliver their lecture, and they couldn't care less what is the moral conduct of their disciples or what they do in their life. They just, normally that's what's happening. Okay, yes?
Yeah, I was thinking that some years ago in the West also, because the knowledge was not separated so much from the spirituality and from the religion, actually they knew that a very important part of the education was to develop moral character and good quality. So it was part, and that's why we know that some years ago even like the students, they were going and they were living in the school.
Yeah, boarding schools.
Years, yes. But with the passing of the years, actually what we see is that nowadays in most of the places, most meaning like 99% of the places, they don't care what will be your character. Why? Because the idea is not that we need qualified people to improve the society, rather the people who are providing the education, their idea of education is we are the brain, we are thinking, no need you to think.
Yeah.
You just have to work.
Yeah, right.
And this creates totally different kinds of education.
Actually,
rather they don't want you to think.
Yeah, I just read actually in Vedic, Prabhupada says exactly the same thing. He says they don't they don't need exactly people with independently thoughtful people, because once these people are there, they will remove them from their positions. And Prabhupada was giving an example. If many people become devotees, then with meat, gambling, intoxication, this will be over. So people don't want this. I mean, they don't. Yes?
Where did you read that?
Veda-based.
Vedabase is what is Vedabase? It's software. It's, all the Srila Prabhupada's books are. You can. There is a search engine. You can anyway somewhere in Prabhupada's.
There's a website too. You can search Veda-based.
It's a website as well. Okay.
.io.
Yeah, it's online as well. So in order to create independently thoughtful, intelligent people, you have to have certain level of moral integrity. Otherwise, you don't want these people around. It's easier to manipulate ignorant people than brahmanas. You cannot manipulate. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted ISKCON to produce brahmanas. And this school that in Mayapur that we will be showing you pictures shortly trains brahmanas. So brahmanas means they are independent. Independent in a sense that they just teach Vedic knowledge, and whatever comes naturally, this is what they accept as their maintenance. A Brahmana will never take a job, in other words. He'll never become a dog to somebody. Neither would Kshatriya, neither would Vaishya. So you know what I mean. Kshatriya, Vaishya, Brahmana. Okay.
Shudra.
Okay. Shudras only take job. Okay. They do.
Everywhere.
So okay. What else I wanted to say? Okay. The Vedic education has 3 levels of education. Well, there are sometimes 4. The 4th one is not so well known. The first one is Shravana. Shravana means you hear from the teacher. And you hear with faith, with respect. Then the next level is Manana. Manana means you think. With your intelligence, you try to understand how this is true. What is the meaning of this? And then the 3rd level is Nididhyasana, which means application. You have to apply this knowledge in your life. And then by application, you realize this knowledge. Realization of the knowledge means that it becomes part of you. You don't do things in different way anymore. You understand, this is the way I want to live my life. It becomes part of your identity, in other words. Okay, so
Can you give some example?
like, for example, we hear that the best diet is Krishna Prasadam. We shouldn't eat meat. We shouldn't eat anything that is not offered to the Lord. And fish, eggs, all these things. So we practice this with faith, and in short time we become convinced, and we realize that this is what we want to do, and we will never even touch meat. Just this is meat becomes disgusting. It becomes part of our identity. I am Krishna. How Prabhupada said, Krishnatarian, because we're not vegetarians strictly, because we eat only what Krishna. We are vegetarians because Krishna accepts this type of food. Otherwise, if Krishna would accept something else, we would accept this. See, we're not vegetarians. We just take Krishna Prasadam. You want to give some other example?
Or like maybe, for example, if we hear that it's good to get up early in the morning, and these are very valuable hours for beginning of your good day. But then, for example, we never did it much, so we don't have experience about that. But then you start contemplating, okay, what it will take me to do this adjustment in my life. Oh, that means I have to get up to sleep earlier, and then try to get up 1 hour earlier or 2 hours earlier, and then what I'm going to do when I got up, because I can get up, but then if I don't have engagement, then I will go to sleep again. So we think about all these things, and then we kind of make some plan, and then we decide, okay, let me now put it into practice, and then we start doing it gradually. And in the beginning there are difficulties. You cannot get up to go to sleep early, or get up early, and then you are basically working. But by doing it, you start to practically experience feeling in a certain way. That these early morning hours, they give you something that other hours in the day they cannot give you. So you start feeling it, experiencing, and by experiencing it, it becomes part of your life, you could say.
Exercise.
Or exercise, correct.
Becomes part of your value system.
Becomes part of your value system. You don't want to do it other way, because you already have the good experience that this is something very important.
That's what I do. Well, that's very important, because in this way we will acquire also taste, this ruchi. Ruchi means spiritual taste. We will not be able to acquire this spiritual taste unless we are very stable in our sadhana. Only when we are stable, nishta, only then ruchi will come. Then we start liking it. But if we're unstable, then we don't
So you want
experience this taste.
You want to say if we get up early in the morning once a month and 29 times we didn't.
It will be something, but yeah. Sri Prabhupada said, if you get up early in the morning every day for 12 years and you attend Mangalarati, anything you say will be perfect. Anything you say will be perfect. Anything. So, okay, I want to finish by reading from Srila Prabhupada's purport to Bhagavad-Gita 8:28. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 20, so these are at least 15 years, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. So after this study, this period of brahmachari training, then next stage of life is grihastha. Then he's allowed to get married because he's qualified now. He's qualified to get married. He has adhikar because he has knowledge, he has good character, he's self-controlled, and his family life will be successful. Of course, the girls should also be trained. The girls are also educated, but in different environment. Anyway, can talk about this other time.
Say.
Boys are educated better, are trained better outside of the home, and the girls are trained better in the home. Of course, this doesn't mean that they don't attend Gurukula, but they do it in their own way. They don't live in the Gurukula, and they don't undergo this severe tapasya austerities. For them, there is special concession. They get the same benefit, but in easier way. In other words, the Vedas, the Vedic culture is very considerate about the female nature. So it treats it in a special way, protecting it. Yes.
Like you were saying in the beginning, because if a boy is just in the home, they generally become unconscious about their surroundings. But would be opposite.
With the girls,
they're more conscious.
Yeah, they're much more aware. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if we haven't received this type of education and we're already later on in life? What can we do to try to help ourselves best as possible?
Because we are the soul, we are not the body. We can become Krishna conscious at any stage of life, in any situation. Practically what we can do, we can take advantage of the temple and do as much as devotional service as we can, and maybe in our spare time, maybe we can just take some time off and join the ashram for a week or something. At least get some exposure to this kind of lifestyle. In the Dharma Shastras, it is explained that one should go to the brahmachari training compulsory. This is compulsory for the brahmanas and for the kshatriyas, for the vaishyas. Only shudras don't go to Gurukula. So the brahmanas stay longest, the kshatriyas stay shorter time, the vaishyas stay even shorter time. And normally the course of education is 12 years, But it is said if you cannot do it, then 6 years. Then, if that's not possible, 1 year. If this is not possible, at least 6 months, or maybe 1 month, or at least 1 day. But you have to go through brahmachari training. Some brahmachari training should be there. So the Vedic culture, opposite to the modern contemporary opinion, it's very flexible and very accommodating. It's actually the only all accommodating culture and philosophy in the world. So something you can do, always something. Fortunately, you have this nice temple here. Many people don't have temples in their hometown. And there is temple with brahmachari ashram right here, so you can do something. Okay. And now we'll watch. Now we will just play a short slideshow from Mayapur Gurukula, the school where with Tulsi Prabhu we have been connected and serving there since 15 years. And
after that, they can ask questions.
Yeah. So